Around that time, after I'd opened the school for a few years and I started to train with some of the UFC fighters like Randy Couture and some of the other guys who helped us bring in the clinch game, I put out a series of videos titled Aliveness. And aliveness was a one-word term, a meme, if you will, to explain why things work and don't work in martial arts, because that was a question I was obsessed with as a child. And it's a question that I would get all the time. And it's some question I'm sure many of you get or asked or see where people ask, what about this art? What about that art? And they, want to, what about Wing Chun or Taekwondo? And the piece I thought people were missing was it's not about the specific art or which geographical location it comes from or how old it is or anything like that. It's about the training method. If they have a functional training method, they're going to be able to work. And all the martial arts that are functional, martial arts that work, all tend to have one thing in common, which is they're all also sports. So they have some level of realistic competition. So the arts, the delivery systems, which is a word I would prefer to use in the UFC, are going to be boxing and Muay Thai and Greco-Roman and Judo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and folk style and freestyle wrestling and Sambo. So all these arts, each has its own specific limitations in the rule set. But because they all use competition, there is a form of aliveness. And so what I wanted to get across to people is that once they understood what aliveness was, they would never, first of all, they'd never be bullshitted again by martial arts con artists. And second of all, they would know the answer to what works and what doesn't. They'd be able to see it immediately. And so aliveness is timing, energy, and motion. 3 words, 3 different perspectives of really the same thing. So timing, I mean, it's not in a pattern. It's moving, it's alive, and so that you have to respond in real time. So in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for example, we will practice headlock escapes. You're going to show the person the headlock escape. They're going to practice it for a few minutes to make sure they can do it mechanically correct. And then we start drilling. And when we drill in SPG, it's always alive. And so what's going to happen is the other person is going to really try and hold them down. And it doesn't always mean 100%. It doesn't mean full contact. And aliveness and sparring are not synonymous. But it does mean that they're going to be really trying to hold them down. It's not in a pattern. And we can adjust, move up and down the level of resistance to what's going to be functional and healthy for that particular person. But that's the first thing. Second thing is timing. And because it's not in a pattern, what you start to do is you start to get timing. And this was an idea that really was hammered home to me by Hickson when he talked about the differences between black belts and white or blue belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You can have a purple belt that knows twice as many techniques as a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but the black belt will usually win every single time in a full-on grappling match because of the timing. And that timing you only get from dealing with a resistant opponent, resistant training partner on the mat. So the first thing is timing. Energy is that second piece. It's like realistic energy. We're not moving in a way that's contrived or would not resemble what an aggressive, resisting person would resemble. And motion, again, it's live movement. So it's really just 3 words for essentially the same type of thing. And every martial art that's functional, every training method that's functional, if we're talking about martial applications, is going to involve aliveness. That doesn't mean full contact. It doesn't mean we just throw people in the water. So there's a lot of questions that come after that we can get into. But that was the initial revelation of what I wanted to try and get across the martial arts community.